Russia was already experiencing the beginnings of a demographic problem just before Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Its fertility rate was significantly below the replacement rate, and due to a lack of immigration, Russia's population began to decline in 2017. This is something Putin is really concerned about. When asked what keeps him awake at night in November 2021, he informed reporters that Russia's demographic catastrophe was his top concern. Unfortunately for Putin, the war with Ukraine has made everything much worse. Russians are departing the nation at an all-time high. According to The Economist, Russia's fertility rate and life expectancy for Russian males aged 15 have now decreased by 5 years to the same level as crisis-stricken Haiti. Thereby, in this video, we'll look at Russia's demographic catastrophe, how it's been aggravated by the war, and if Putin or the Kremlin can do anything about it. Hello and welcome to Economic News. Please like the video and subscribe with all notifications turned on by ringing the bell icon if you're enjoying the video so far. Now, let us get into the root of the problem of Russia's dwindling population. Let's start with some context. A country must have a fertility rate of around 2.1 births per woman in order to maintain a steady population. If your country's fertility rate is less than 2.1, your population will begin to decrease in the absence of considerable immigration or rises in life expectancy, which is bad news since low birth rates are politically and economically challenging because they indicate an older population, which implies a larger tax burden on the youthful working population. Prior to the war, Russia had a fertility rate of approximately 1.5, which was fairly comparable to the EU average. While this may not appear to be a major issue, Russia was in worse shape than its European rivals, owing to a death rate of around 13 per thousand inhabitants, which was significantly higher than the European average. This high death rate was a result of the fact that young people in Russia had a far higher risk of dying than in other comparable nations. In 2018, for example, 25% of all fatalities in Russia happened before the age of 60, while the pre-war life expectancy for men in Russia was just 68. In any case, Russia's population has been steadily dropping since 2018, owing to a low birth rate, a lack of immigration, and a high death rate. Worryingly for Putin, the United Nations forecast that Russia's population will shrink to 135 million by 2050, around the same time as it was in 1975. You get the picture. Even before the war, Russia was experiencing a population fall. Unsurprisingly, though, the conflict has significantly worsened things for at least 3 reasons. Obviously, the war killed tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of young Russian men, and the consequent economic uncertainty discouraged young Russians from beginning families, resulting in a massive wave of emigration out of the nation. Let's start with the number of fatalities. Nobody is entirely sure how many Russians have perished in the conflict so far. Western nations believe it to be as high as 200,000, but Russians maintain the genuine amount is in the low tens of thousands. The real amount is most likely somewhere in the middle, but in any event, it's bad news for Russia's demography. After the collapse of the Soviet Union and the Russian economy, the birth rate in Russia fell sharply, as no one was born in the 1990s. There are very few young people in their 20s and 30s in Russia, which is why there is such a decline in this age group in the Russian population pyramid. Of course, this was already bad news for Russia's demographics, as this is the age when people typically have children, but the war will make it worse because Putin's partial mobilization has targeted men aged 18 to 35. Anyway, you get the picture. Russia was already short on young men, and this is just the demographic that has been sent to fight and die in Ukraine. Also, the war has lowered fertility rates among young Russians who have not been killed in the conflict. The fact that people are hesitant to start families in Russia can be seen as predictable, given the high level of uncertainty surrounding the country's political and economic outlook. In April 2020, only a few months after the war began, the number of recorded births was extremely low, reaching levels not seen since the 1700s. As a result, Russia's fertility rate is anticipated to decrease significantly in the next few years, placing it among the world's lowest. The last of the three ways in which the war has worsened Russia's demographic predicament is through its influence on migration. In essence, a greater number of individuals from Russia are departing from the country, while there is a decreased number of individuals from Central Asia migrating into Russia. Prior to the war, immigration rates had already been increasing, and a larger population of young Russians had expressed a desire to depart from the country. There is no definitive data available. However, the majority of estimates suggest that no less than 100,000 individuals from Russia have left the nation since the commencement of the war, primarily relocating to Central Asia, Georgia, and Turkey. Typically, Russia compensates for any emigration by accepting immigration of economic migrants from Central Asia. Before the war, Russia was receiving an annual influx of immigrants ranging from 200,000 to 500,000, which has resulted in it now having the world's fourth largest population of immigrants. Nonetheless, there are grounds to anticipate a decline in the influx of Central Asian migrants into Russia in the upcoming years. Central Asian governments and populations are becoming more cautious about Russia due to what they perceive as its imperialistic behavior. While Russia's economy has remained relatively stable thus far, if economic sanctions hinder its growth in the future, Central Asians searching for economic prospects may have little motivation to engage with it. It is apparent that the ongoing war has further intensified Russia's demographic decline. As such, what strategies can the Kremlin and President Putin implement to address this issue? As previously stated, it is evident that Putin is aware of this matter, and in 2020, he introduced a comprehensive set of policies aimed at promoting higher birth rates. Regrettably for Putin, it appears that these policies are not yielding significant outcomes. The fertility rates experienced a temporary rise, reaching a peak of approximately 1.7 in 2017, but subsequently declined and are currently at the same level as in 2007, which is approximately 1.5. Prior to the war, officials were acknowledging in private that the Kremlin's aim to counter Russia's demographic decline by 2030 was unattainable. Russia is not the sole participant in this endeavor, as other nations, notably China, have also encountered comparable challenges in attempting to boost fertility rates through the implementation of pro-natalist policies. The notion is comprehensible. The demographic predicament in Russia is deteriorating, and Putin's capacity to alleviate the situation is limited. This situation does not inevitably spell doom. Many other advanced nations are also grappling with decreasing populations, and Russia's future direction will be influenced by the performance of its economy and geopolitical status in the post-war era. Nonetheless, this is unwelcome news for Putin and Russia as a whole. Thank you for watching this video. Please leave a comment down below stating your opinions on the dwindling population of Russia and describe how it could affect the war efforts of Russia against Ukraine. Also, if you have time, do check out our other videos on the channel. Thank you and see you in the next video.